Hello, my name is Marwa Farag and I teach program planning and evaluation here at the university. And the session today is about indicators. And the reason we use indicators is because we want to know how we're doing. In your program, you want to know if you are creating the positive client change that you hope to create. So you use indicators basically to measure if you're successful. And there I have to tell you, we need to think about what success is. And the way to do that is to do that collectively with the other people you work with in your program. For example, it should be something that everybody agrees that this is how we say that our program is successful. We see improvement in functioning. We see improvement in well-being for our clients. The second thing we need to think about is it has to be something we can measure because it's an indicator. It's like we want to measure the temperature. It has to be something we can measure. So the idea is that you need to think about how am I going to measure this indicator, and you need to think about the timing of measuring that indicator. When do you collect the information to find out or to measure whether well-being or functioning has improved? Ideally, you should do that not so far after the program has been implemented, because so many other things would have interfered, would have happened to that person. In order to think what's a good indicator, we need to be thinking of 3 criteria for good indicators. So 3 criteria are, first, it has to be significant. The indicator has to be related to something important to the functioning of the program, and it has to be something that's directly related to the program. What we mean by that is that if in your program you have an indicator that measure social interaction between your clients, I wouldn't think that's a good indicator, because the clients could have improved the level of social interaction just because they feel comfortable or because they had a good experience with everybody around, but it could have nothing to do with your program and your program components and your program content. So that's not a significant indicator. That would not be a good indicator, because it's not significant, because it could relate to something totally different from what your program is trying to do and your program content. The second thing we need to think about is that a good indicator needs to be practical. What do we mean by practical? So it has to be related to something about your program that you can change in order to do better, in order to achieve your goals. So if changing the location of the facility is out of the question, so having an indicator about how the location affects you or affects the client really doesn't help you much, because you really want a practical indicator that will give you useful information that you can then use to modify your behavior, to modify how you run your program in order to get better outcomes. So it needs to be practical. The third thing that an indicator needs to be is feasible. Feasible, it has to be something that you can collect data on. So it cannot be something that is too expensive to collect data on or too time-consuming. Indicators, because we want to measure how we're doing. So if it's not measurable for any reason, whether it's time constraints, whether it's money constraints, whether it's just very, very hard to measure what you're trying to measure, then it's not a good indicator. So whether indicators are process indicators related to how we run our program, or outcome indicators related to how our program is really directly impacting our clients, in both cases the indicators need to be significant, practical, and feasible.